Last week he told me, I am definitely the person you need to be talking to.
It's just the mindset, exploring those different ways to approach.
This is an official presentation of SDR Insider. Welcome to Mac and Zach in the Morning, your home for all things sales, business development, and beyond. With over 4 decades of combined experience in the field, please welcome your hosts and daily practitioners of the craft, Mark Mack and Zach Bauer.
Good morning. Welcome to SDR Insiders. Mac and Zach in the morning. Good morning, Zach. What's going on, brother?
Good morning, Zach. It looks like we're both Zach this morning.
Oh,
Double dose.
everybody's Zach. Cynthia's going to be Zach. She doesn't even know it.
It's the Zach show.
Nice. The Zach and Zach show. Could you imagine two guys named Zach get together? They're like, let's do a show.
They just argue about
well, I guess there's Mike and the Mad Dog.
spelling.
Oh yeah, one's CH and one's K. Yeah, that would be like all day, right? Like that would be like two Marks, one with a C and one with a K. Same thing.
There you
That's
go.
funny shit. But we got an exciting guest this morning. This girl, I swear, when I met her, she was like taking the BDR world by storm, right? I mean, like she just likes to get in it, get in the trenches. Got herself involved in all the communities and really dug deep and stayed in it. Like I admire people. I've always had this thing about like I used to work for a company where in order to move up in the company, you have to hold different positions before you can get to the ultimate spot. And like everybody was always like, that's what they thought about. As soon as they came in, their first job, they're like, how do I get to the next level? How do I get to the next level? How do I get to the next level? And while she probably had the ability or the opportunity to go either to other companies or even inside her company to continue to move up in the organization, she stayed in the trenches with her reps and got them good and got them confident and got them. And like, that's just, to me, is the most admirable thing, like she has fun doing it. She loves doing it. She loves her team. She loves her people and she loves life. And I want to get her in here as fast as possible. So let's welcome in Cynthia Handal from Samara.
Morning.
Hello.
Yeah.
Excited to be here. Hadn't been here in a long time.
What's going on? I hope that intro was good.
That was really good. Like tears and everything.
Oh, tears. Well, it's true. Like I even remember we had some conversations a while back where you were almost like, I'm not sure how to do this. I don't know if I should do that. And now, I mean, I just see a whole different person here. I mean, confident, and not that you weren't confident then, but like just confidence. Love that you're still in it. Love still working with the BDR team. Most of the other girls that I know that were like kind of moving up the ranks, whatever, have moved up and moved on or went out on their own, and you're still really, steadfast. And I mean, I'm curious to know what really has kept you in the game for as long as you've been in it.
Well, to be completely honest, I think that sales development business development, I would say, is my favorite thing to work for. Like I have had like full cycle sales jobs. I've been an AE. I've been a VP of sales before. And I think that working with BDRs is like one of the most rewarding jobs, actually managing a team of BDRs, because there's so much energy working with a team of BDRs, and I'm all for that energy. Like I'm an extremely energetic and hyperactive person by nature. So like, for example, when I was an AE, I remember I hated it because like, AEs are all about nurturing the customer, waiting for that deal to close. And being a BDR is more about being that hunter, like you have to hunt for that sale. There's like that rush you get when you book that meeting. Like speaking to my team every day, like we have a tracker, like today we need 10. So it's like 9, 8, I don't know. It's the energy, like inner Slack. It's crazy. Like everybody cheers for you when you book a meeting. speaking about how a rep can actually get better, like your cold calls, listening to cold calls, coaching them. I really enjoy it. Like I enjoy coaching reps. I enjoy finding like different strategies to help them be successful. And I'm not as in the trenches as much as I want to be because they asked me to step back and like manage more.
Mhm.
So I actually have team leads. I have a sales enablement manager, but I'm always there, like looking at the Slack and I'm celebrating the wins and I'm like constantly testing out messages, like what's going on in the world. Like, guys, you need to change your messaging to this. This isn't working. And like, they know that they can reach out to me. Like, people always send me, like, Cynthia, can you listen to this call? What do you think about this? And I'm like, you could have done this better. We always do role play, like all of the time. We do role play to keep that going alive. I'm constantly like pushing them to try social selling, to try video prospecting. So I'm always there, not actively as involved as I used to be before, but I am. I'm always
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I think though the one thing that I remember that's important to note with respect to that is that you still like. I remember one day I remember I was talking to you and you said, I gotta go because I gotta get in. You know, my team is behind, so I gotta pick up the phone and I gotta make some calls and set some meetings. And you know, there's a lot of sales directors or leaders out there that might say they do that. I personally have never seen them do it. I've seen you do it. And so like just the attitude that you had, you're like, I gotta go. I can't talk right now. I got to get it with my team and
Oh,
just
I
the
still do calls with them,
yeah.
but I still do calls with them. Like I have them listen to me make calls.
Uh-huh.
I'm more focused on cadences and email campaigns and social selling now, but I'm always like, there hasn't been a single month when I haven't actually brought meetings to the table as well. Like, it's just a personal win for me that I'm like, oh, I need to book something.
Yeah, I feel like I'd be like that too. Like if I was like leading the team and like I'm out of the game for a minute, like not out of the game, but out of like making calls, I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna jump on the phone today and set some meetings. Like,
Exactly. Yeah. You get that feeling sometimes. Like I'm like everybody's like, we haven't booked anything. People are throwing the phones at us. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start making calls to see what's going on as well. I'm always into that. Yeah, always.
nice.
Awesome. So I'm curious. You've led a team over kind of a variety of situations in terms of the economy and how receptive people are to outbound. Um, so let's dig into how you're kind of navigating some of the more challenging aspects of business development. Um, you know, right now.
Yeah, so definitely the start of Q1 was very, very tough, like rough sledding. January and February were horrible because so many layoffs going on. And remember that the product that we sell, we're an employer of record or a skill development platform that helps US companies hire people in Latin America for any remote role. So I'm not going to say the name of our data provider, but it's not their fault either. So many layoffs going on. Like January was crazy. People were like, yeah, I was laid off last week. No, I was laid off yesterday. I no longer work there. It was horrible. Like we normally do like 170 meetings. We barely made it to like 102. And it was a huge push. Like we were 70 meetings behind from what we normally do. And the layoff situation really hit us. So we started I started like doing a lot of research on what industries are actually hiring right now that's not tech, because tech actually used to be our bread and butter, but you know, tech was hit so hard that people were either laid off, nobody was picking the phone, or just saying not interested, not interested. So I started focusing my team on companies that were not tech companies, teaching them to stay away from them until like the situation, I don't know, like there's more stability like later on in the future, but we're mostly staying away from software development and software companies now. We're more focusing on like marketing and advertising companies, financial services, coaching, management consulting companies, anything that's not software. So, or SaaS. So that was the first thing we did because it was terrible. Then we had to change our messaging all over again because like remember that last year when we started, everything was about the great resignation, right? Like there was an abundance of jobs, the pandemic was barely over, and you're like talking about the great resignation where people are jumping from one job to another, so everybody wants to hire people. Then we changed the messaging to the recession, right? That there with the ongoing recession, then we changed the messaging to layoffs. Now we're talking about worldwide events because there's mass hysteria in the world going on with all of the bank failures like the Silicon Valley Bank, the Signature Bank, now Credit Suisse this morning. There's a lot of craziness going on. So I'm like, you need to stay away from the mass hysteria. And a good opening line right now is like, I'm so like probably Monday, we were using this opening line. Like, I'm sorry if you were affected by what happened with Silicon Valley Bank, just to create like empathy with customers. So we're constantly changing the messaging as well with worldwide events, staying away from industries that have been hit hard, like SaaS, definitely, or tech, so to say. Also, I've been focusing my team on working more on their cold calls because email, Google changed their practices as well. And they're like, oh, our emails are being constantly flagged as spam, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, okay, one of the main reasons your emails are being marked as spam is because you're abusing. Like, I have had some people that we're sending out 2,000 emails a day. And I'm like, of course you're going to get flagged. Your send reputation is going to go down. So you need to start personalizing your emails. You need to start maybe send out only 50 emails a day and actually hyper personalize those emails. Send out a video. We even tried doing GIFs, like when you haven't gotten a reply back, like put in a little ghost GIF. And it was funny because people would actually respond like, I appreciate the hustle, but I'm still not interested, or this is the funniest email I've got. At least you would make prospects laugh. So we had to change a lot of things. And thank God, March has been way better. Like, we've seen our numbers go up, and it's mainly due to that. We're not booking basically anything in tech. We've changed the messaging. We're hyper personalizing. We're reaching out to the same decision makers, but only different companies, probably mid-sized companies, SMBs. We don't do enterprise. And surprisingly, I would say that 75% of what we've booked this month has been either by cold call or LinkedIn. Like, I'm pushing their LinkedIn game strong because I even had like we did a tracker. Everybody has to post a minimum of 3 times a week. So we're tracking your post as well. We're tracking the number of followers you have to have, because I'm pushing them to believe in social selling as well, because I'm telling them social selling is not for a quick win, it's for the long win. I actually have one of my team leads. She just reached 5,000 followers last week. So we're like pushing them, and they're loving it. Like, I get so happy when I see them get responses on LinkedIn, and it's like, these are probably not going to be no-shows because they actually gave you their phone number via LinkedIn. They said yes. They actually booked a meeting. So we've changed everything, and I'm happy about that. But let's see what happens next month, how Q2
Yeah, I was gonna say that the show rates and when you're going through social are definitely going to be much higher. I mean, like if they're engaging with you, particularly on social, then um, they're likely to continue. Like they may not ghost you, at least. Like if they can't show for some reason, something pops up, they're probably likely to get in touch with you or like hit you up with a DM. It's a lot faster than an email. I can't tell you how many times I've called people to confirm our meeting, and that's when they said, "Oh yeah, I'm not going to be able to make it." I'm like, "So you basically were going to no-show me," And it took me to calling you to make sure that my AE don't show up to a blank screen. So totally appreciate the social selling. I mean, that's definitely awesome. Tell me though, I mean, like, what is like when they started to hear about the banking thing? Like, what was kind of like the tone of the team? Like, what did you have to do or say you felt in order to kind of refocus them or motivate them to get moving in the right direction? What did you
Yeah,
say?
so a lot of mass hysteria. People were freaking out, like, we're not going to get any meetings, because you're looking at the craziness on Friday night, Monday morning. Everybody's like, layoffs, like these huge founders, I'm not going to say their names, of huge companies. They're like, if you need help or if you need money, reach out. So people are freaking out on LinkedIn. My reps are freaking out. And I'm like, okay, first things first, I want to give everybody peace of mind. Samara has its money in the oldest and most boring bank in the USA, Bank of America. So you need to stay chill. Nothing's going on with Samara. Like, don't worry. Number one, like, we're safe. Number two, mass hysteria. You need to stay away from all of the craziness, and you need to control your mindset, because at the end of the day, mostly companies that were founded, that were actually funded by us, by Silicon Valley Bank, are mostly in California. Remember that that's a bank that started in California and then probably grew to Nevada and the East Coast. So you need to stay away right now for companies that are on the West Coast and mostly small startups. You need to do a little bit more of research. Actually, take a look at their LinkedIn's company pages to see if there's an announcement that they were hit by the. So if you see that, stay away from that. And mostly companies that were affected by it were companies that were in the tech sector. So we were staying away from the tech sector as well. That was before, because we were seeing that there were so many, like, it's an avalanche. Like, first layoffs, so many craziness going on, then the failure of the bank. So it's all related to tech. So we were actually already staying away from tech. So this was another reason for me to, like, actually reinforce my position, like, stay away from tech for a while, stay away from software companies. So now they're all like reaching out to these marketing and advertising coaching companies, and they're like, oh my God, we're booking a lot more meetings. I'm like, I told you so. You should have stayed away from them a long time ago. So, but I'm letting them explore. Try different things. And that's what we did with that. Yeah.
Cool. Hey, I know that you're, I know this is really more about you and not so much about Samara, but I was reading that thing about employee of record. How many other companies actually do that? I've never seen or heard of that model where you're basically like your client will hire the employee from Latin America, right? And they do all the training and coaching and whatever, but they pay you, Samara, and then Samara pays the employee or does all the payroll and all that kind of stuff.
So employer of record, there's a ton of different companies, and actually the biggest ones are based in the States. I don't know if you've ever heard of Deal, Oyster, and Remote.com. They're all based in the States. They're the hugest employer of record companies out there, global employer of record companies. But we're completely different from them, because we're not only your employer of record. What makes us so different from these companies is that you have to find the employee. And I reach out to Deal and tell them, like, I'm ready to sign a contract with you. I have the employee. No, with Samara, it's completely different. We find that person for you. We have a database of over 100,000 candidates, and you handpick the candidate, interview as many people as you like, and then we become your employer of record. So it's actually a skill development platform where we actually launched the artificial intelligence part, where it matches your job description to people that actually have the skills and the talent. And what's so cool is that BDRs are actually one of our most demanded jobs. Like, everybody wants to hire BDRs and SDRs, but there's huge churn with that. So we launched a product that's actually the Samara Sales Academy, which is free right now for candidates in Latin America. We're doing it once a month. It's a 2-week intensive program. And there's a ton of people out there that they want to get into business development, but have not used tools, don't know better practices. So we're training them for free, 2 hours a day, and you get a certificate. And what's the coolest part about is you're actually placed in front of companies to be hired, and you get that certificate. From the camp that we did in February, we had 19 people and 10 already got hired. This month we have 27, and I think 8 are already in active interviews, and I'm probably going to hire 3 or 4 out of them as well. And we're already building the roster for April. Yeah. So it's a huge opportunity. And I'm sad because I get like messages from people all over the world asking me, can I please join? And I'm like, this moment, it's only for Latin America. But when Samara expands to Europe next year, which we're going into Africa and Egypt to hire more talent to be able to source European startups, we'll 100% do camps for people in Europe as well, in Africa and Egypt.
Wow, that's just super awesome. Yeah, I was never familiar with this employer record. What, I hate to ask, but what's the benefit of that to, let's say, the employer, like using a separate employer of record?
So a lot of companies in the US actually want to outsource their talent. One, the main reason is they're growing and it's cost effective, or they want to maximize their resources. Like, I don't want to use the word cheap because it's not cheap, but remember that the cost of living in Latin America is a lot lower than actually living in the States. So a lot of companies, they want to hire their remote sales teams or customer success teams or technical support, or we're seeing a lot of people actually hiring VPs. You're not going to believe it. We just had a company hire a VP of marketing from Panama. So they want to find diversity and talent as well. They want to maximize their resources. They haven't been able to find maybe the person that they're looking for in the States. So they want to do this in Latin America. So not everybody has the resources to actually open a legal entity in the country of origin where they're hiring that person. And let's say that you just want to hire one person in Panama. It's going to take around 6 months to a year to get up all your legal and compliance stuff to open up a legal entity down there. It's going to be extremely expensive versus doing it with us. It's already done. So any legal compliance stuff is directly done by us. You just have to pick the candidate and pay us, and we pay them. So that's yeah. What would take you 6 months is probably going to take you a week with us. Yeah.
It's really cuts a whole lot out of that process.
Yeah. We have a lot of companies actually reaching out, and a lot of companies interested in opening branches down here in Latin America. So we're growing a lot, and yeah, the space is growing.
Oh, you mean their company? I thought you meant like you're franchising out. That's not.
No. We're growing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, we had a question in the chat here. Dean is curious how you view SDR. Is it marketing or is it sales?
So it's primarily sales, but there is a marketing side involved that you're doing marketing without doing marketing. If, like, for example, social selling, you're like your brand's biggest marketer right there and then. What I tell my team is when you're doing social selling, the way you do social selling is not like, hi, this is Cynthia from Samara, hire us. No, that's not the way it's done. Like, I create content every day because I would say that my audience is either sales leaders, aspiring BDRs and SDRs, and a lot of decision makers in my space, CEOs and founders that actually want from startups. So I create content around the SDR and BDR world. And I mean, I probably get like 5 inbound leads a month from LinkedIn because they see my posts that I'm talking about the struggles of coaching a team and like struggles that we find, motivation, whatever. And there's always people like reaching out, like, I'm starting to lead a BDR and SDR team. Could you help me find candidates? And I'm like, yeah, we can find them from Latin America. So we start the conversation going, and that's how it goes. So I think that BDRs and SDRs are your biggest marketers without being in marketing, especially when they're doing social selling. And it's funny because our company, like, we don't do any Google ads. Everything is purely outbound, BDR sourced. And last week, like, I got 10 inbound leads fill out forms from our website in a day, and we're like freaking out, like we don't even have Google ads turned on. I start going into the HubSpot Google form, and then I start seeing that people that actually clicked on links from BDR emails and they go into the website. Somebody had already sent us a mail link via LinkedIn, and that person actually clicked on the website. So it's BDRs are your biggest marketeers. It's sales, but they are marketing because they're sending out emails trying to book a sale, and that creates traffic to your website. I saw it, like, I loved it. Like last week, I couldn't believe it, like 10 inbound leads in a day, and it was purely BDR source, like people that would click on the links that are included in our emails. They would go into our website, fill out a form. Sometimes they send one pagers with links via LinkedIn, and people also click on that. So it's sales, but again, they're your biggest marketeers because they're the face of your company. There's who's ever knocking the doors and probably opening the doors for your company.
Yeah, and I think probably people out there like the leaders that you said that are reaching out and saying, well, I saw you leading a BDR team. I'm starting to lead a BDR team. How do you do this? How do you do that? And I think that's coming from that whole just the whole genuineness of how you're delivering your content. Like you're not pitching Samara. You're not like even making suggestions. Like there's people out there who spend more of their time on, like let's say, what's it like, saying what's like you when you write your posts, like I've noticed your posts are just about like what's really going on, like the bottom line of it all in some cases, right? And so I think you're not like preaching. Like I don't find like your content is you're preaching about how to do this or how to do that. You're just telling stories, and I think people get attracted to that because you're telling real stories and you're twisting it into maybe even a lesson or something that you learn from it. But I find like you're more like almost like a good storyteller in that sense. And that's why I'm attracted to like you and your content and probably other people. And that's why they probably feel comfortable asking you those questions, because you're not like telling them how to do it. You're just saying, this is what I do. This is how some people do it. This is the story behind that. And then they come and they're like, I'm feeling the same way. I need help. And that's got to just be amazingly rewarding, just to know that you can impact people that way. Showing
Yeah,
your
and like
team.
there's a lot of people out there who are a lot better than any of us at cold calling, cold emailing. But what I tell my team is you need to find what works for you. And like the internet says a million different things, and like everybody has a different perspective. Like some people say, they hate scripts. Some people say you need to stick to a script. Some people say cold calling is dead. Some people say cold calling is the only way to go. You need to find what sticks for you. And I've never been about preaching and like being like, you need to do this, because I'm more of a like, you need to find what works for you. But these are better practices that have worked for my team specifically. And if it works for you, go ahead and try it. If not, find what works for you. That's what I tell everybody.
Sometimes they need a push, right? Because they're afraid, like everyone has, especially if you haven't been posting or you're not used to it, you don't have kind of like a rhythm to it, like where you kind of can deliver. Like I'm getting to the point where I think like I know what my format's like. So like when somebody like during this show, like I'll pick up on a couple of things you said or Zach said, and I'll be like, oh, that's a good post. You know what I mean? Like you have to start thinking that way. But like when you have reps who might struggle, it's funny because like I'll say to them, hey, you don't have like, they'll spend a lot of time looking at other stuff, or they'll look at your stuff and they'll be like, oh, maybe I'll write something similar to that. No, write what impacts you. Like you got to tell them, like, even if it's something so like not even business related, like it's something you saw on the street or something you read about. It's like if you're actually experiencing life, people don't realize how much you actually could have to write about. You just have to start writing and practicing, and then like some of that stuff will start coming naturally to you, and you'll see content everywhere you go, like every minute of the day. Like I see content, like I can produce videos with my wife, like we have interactions. I'm like, oh, that would be awesome if we had that on video. Like I almost want to make her go back and like, can we just repeat that whole thing that we just did, because that was really funny. And like I could definitely see doing a video and coming off of something like that. But I think, it's hard when you're trying to coach and and lead the team and say, hey, social selling's the way and they never done it before. But when they see you do it, right? That's that's what's so attractive about you, Cynthia, because you get in it. You just show them, and you don't just talk and preach. You do, and that's really, I mean, that's what makes you a great leader, in my book. So.
Love it.
And so you mentioned earlier that you had someone on your team that's got like 5,000 followers now.
Yes.
And you've kind of alluded to that being a journey, right? Like growing a social following, getting your getting comfortable, I guess, with social selling. I'm curious, how have you coached your team to get comfortable and kind of overcome that mental hurdle of hey, like I'm out here, because you got to put yourself out there to some degree, right?
So the
To
main
be
reason
successful.
is that they're desperate to book meetings. And
Okay.
like I said, email was down and it's picking up for the main part, but I used to tell them all the time, like, you need to do multi-channel prospecting. Never put your eggs all in one basket. So if email isn't working for you, what else are you going to do to find meetings? Either cold call or use LinkedIn or use both, because email's not working or your emails are going to spam. And like our company did a lot of work on our domain, whatever. But Google changed its practices and it's whatever policies it has on email. So they actually had to do more social selling, and a lot of people who weren't comfortable doing it had to like get comfortable with it because they needed to reach their goals. And I had people who never booked anything through LinkedIn, maybe booking 3 or 4 meetings a week via LinkedIn now. And they're like, oh my God, I love LinkedIn. And they're posting every day and they're like building their mini audience there. So it's like, I think it's more about the urgency to book meetings that took them to create social content and being out there. I never like forced them. I only had them like, you need to write 3 posts a week because again, it's awareness for the company, it's awareness for you, and it builds familiarity for your prospects. So some people were just doing the bare minimum, but now that they're seeing others succeed so much, they're doing LinkedIn because they're seeing others book so many meetings through LinkedIn that they're like, oh my God, what Cynthia said was true. I have to do it. So that's what's going on.
I'll tell you, there's so many companies out there who are like in are even writing this in their employee agreements now, that they don't want you on LinkedIn. That if you even are going to be on LinkedIn, I think in some cases they tell you you can only say these kinds of things or talk about these kinds of things, or you have to, if you're going to talk about our company, it has to be, you have to only say these kinds of things. And I guess I understand a little bit about that. Like if you're going to be on a show and the show's going to be about you and you're going to talk about your company, first of all, you should know how to talk about your company in the right way. And in fact, your company should trust you that you're not going to like say the wrong thing. But they're literally giving people scripts like, this is what I want you to say about us if you happen to be on a live show. I think that's okay in a sense that, obviously you want the message about the company to be, parallel or, in conjunction with, or, in line with what you produce that's on your website or your other marketing material. Like, if you're a lead gen company, you don't want to come out and say you're a staffing company, obviously, right? So like, I get why they might force you on that. But those companies who like literally say like, you can't be on this show and you can't do live stuff and we don't want you talking about they must be out of their mind. I mean, here's an example of, you're not even telling them necessarily to go ahead and talk all about Samara. You're saying go post, get used to it, get comfortable with it, talk about real stuff, throw in the Samara stuff when you need to, or if you can, or then DM people with Samara stuff and get those meetings set is great. But it's like, I can't believe the companies out there that like are the opposite.
I hadn't heard of that before, and when I heard you say the word employee agreement, I thought you were actually going to go the other way, because we actually place it in your employee agreement that you have to actually use LinkedIn. Like, I don't care if they live on LinkedIn all day long, because social selling is growing so much right now, and it's actually the biggest professional network out there. It's one, like, between that and the phone and email, they're going to reach their prospects all the time. So I don't care if they live on LinkedIn.
Oh.
I live on LinkedIn, and I really don't care if they live on LinkedIn. That should be like one of their main channels. So I'm good with that. I'm completely
Yeah.
the other opposite.
Yeah, email is, look, traditionally email hasn't really been the greatest producer, like the greatest return on people's investments. There are some new tools out there that do some things like with ESP matching and warming and multi domains and spin tax and all these kinds of things. I'm sure you've heard about some of those companies, Instantly and Smartly and whatever, and they work and they're helping you land in the inbox, and that's like the biggest thing. But at the same time, I use Sales Loft, and some people say, "Oh, you're never going to get through." Yet I still get replies. I mean, I'm not getting the quantity of replies that I would like, so it's sometimes discouraging. So my biggest push is the phone. As you can imagine, you know me, Zach, you know me. But I've been really trying to double down this year, last year on LinkedIn and video. Video is definitely, you want to separate yourself, you want to humanize, you want to personalize. Video is the way to go. Like, send a video. Sure, can you send a video in your first email cold? Probably not. It may not get through. It could affect deliverability. But like the other day, all I did was I went back to all of the email sequences I've been sending, and I started to create a list of every email that was opened. Now, I don't know if they're always open legitimately, but at the top, if I've only sent 4 emails and there's 8 or 9 or 10 openings, I know that's probably I got through. So I'll take those and I'll send the customized video to those. I'm in the process of working on that right now, and I'll report back, see what happens. But I think, video, if you're not at least trying it, I know it's a scary thing for some people. For those of you guys out there that are listening, just like I told Zach when we started this show 28 weeks or almost 30 weeks ago, right? Almost, how long? It's been almost 8 months.
Way back.
Yeah, we missed a few episodes, so I'll say it was probably like 30 or 32 weeks ago we started this. But before, we had one conversation, and he's like, "Oh, when are we going to do it?" I was like, "Let's just start.
Yeah.
Let's just go hit record right now." And that's what we did. And I think it was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It wasn't even 8 o'clock in the morning. And it was like, you just got to start doing it, And like I advise, like when people ask me, well, how did you get into doing it, whether it's video or LinkedIn, I just try. That's all you got to do. Is just start it. Like, don't spend too much time scrolling. Like, I used to spend a lot of time scrolling to see, okay, well, what do people like? What do people want to see? What are other people saying? It doesn't matter what other people are saying, right? Because if you're going to say exactly what everybody else is saying, then who's going to read your stuff?
Yep.
Like,
Exactly.
who's going to? So it was like, that's the advice I sometimes give, is just start. And it's great to hear that your team, like, took your lead, right? They went out, they started, and now they're booking meetings. Yeah, you got to have it. It's such a great feeling to have that combination of things. Like, if you're making calls and you're kind of grinding it out there a little bit, and you set 1 or 2 meetings, but if you're continuing to do consistently all that other stuff via email, LinkedIn, social, then that stuff will start to catch up. And then one day you're going to have a day where you're like, yeah, you're on the phone and you make it 3 phone calls, you set 3 meetings on the phone or 2 meetings on the phone, but then all of a sudden you're getting 2 from email and 1 from LinkedIn, and it's like,
Exactly.
wow. It's like, wow,
Exactly.
Yeah, no one's coming to tell you a story. Exactly, Dean.
Love that, Dean. No one's coming to tell you.
100%.
Yeah.
Got to get out there and tell it. I mean, listen, and for all of those people out there who feel like, they start to do it. It's tough. It's really tough at first, especially if you're like sub 10,000, followers, right? Because no matter how hard you try, it's only going to reach so many people, and that's just because of the algorithm and those other things. I think it's just about consistency and staying in it. How do you keep your team motivated when they're only maybe getting a return of 30 likes or something like that? Like, what do you tell them, or do they actually even express to you that it's tough and they don't want to do it, or they struggle, or what?
It's tough. Like, even for me, sometimes, like, you're lucky and one of your posts goes viral. I had 2 posts go viral like 3 months ago, And then sometimes your posts are only going to get 30 likes. That happens to me every day. Like only 34 likes, 40 likes. I keep posting. I don't post for the likes. I'm more about creating consistent content I only post from Monday to Friday. And that's it. I'm not about the likes. I'm more about creating different content every day and not repeating the same content. I try to also incorporate humor a lot into my content, but I'm telling them it's not about the likes. It's about being consistent, and most important, I think engaging with others. That's the fastest way to get a lot of followers. When you engage on others' posts, you have people that actually read the comments and then follow you back. And they're like, oh my God, how did I follow you back? Or like, I love what you said. So I think it's all about being consistent, posting. There is a thing such as over posting. I think I saw somebody post 7 times in one day, and that's extreme because that's actually annoying. It's actually finding your style, but it's actually also about engaging with others.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, you got to keep reinforcing that, especially to those people who are new to the game or new to social and whatever, because they're gonna migrate towards looking at those metrics and getting all twisted about it. Like for me, I think in the last few weeks, I'll be honest, I think the reach has been very low comparatively than it was maybe 2 months ago. And I say that because even on my, just across the range of different posts that I put out on a regular basis, I used to average like after so many hours, right? Obviously it keeps it slows down after the first like 3-4 hours, but even after like the 4 or 6 hour period, I used to always pretty much average around 12 to 1500 impressions. And so I always felt like that was just a gauge. And what that told me when I saw it get there wasn't so much I was worried that I wasn't going to get there, but it told me that at least my existing followers, my existing engaged community, people like Zach and the SDR insider community and TNT and all that kind of, they're there, they're watching, they're looking, they saw my post. My message is getting out there, right? That's what was satisfying to me, that just the message that I was trying to put out was reaching people. It was potentially impacting people. And then for the last several weeks, when it really started to drop, and I was only seeing like even on some of my posts with some really good hooks, like shout out to Andrew Mewborn and Chris Bogue for helping me, really put together the right kinds of hooks, because that's the key, right? Getting somebody to open the email and engage with it. Sometimes it's the first couple of lines. And so I even had some good ones I thought were going to not go viral, but at least gain some traction. And I only got 300 impressions. And to me, it was like, I wasn't so angry about the fact that I had low impressions. And I talked about this actually with Tom Slocum, and he felt the same way. And it was, I'm just trying to get the message out. And when I only see 300 impressions, I know it's not getting anywhere. It's like I got 300 friends in my back pocket, I hate not to pat myself on the back, but it's like, I want 1,000 people to see this, because I feel like if I get 1,000 people to see it, 1,000 more people will see it. And maybe somebody will be, inspired or impressed, or not impressed, but impressed, like I gave them something that they could use. And I feel like when it doesn't get out there, it's a shame, and I can only blame LinkedIn for it. Like, why 2 months ago was I averaging 12 to 1500 on the same kinds of posts and same frequency, etc. And now I'm only seeing 300 impressions, 200 impressions, 150 impressions. I don't know how to explain it. But
it's true. It's been down, and it's the same thing has happened to me. But I think that you just need to keep posting. And what's working for me is I had stopped like engaging so much with others' posts. I'm doing it like all day long now, and I'm actually finding out that people are following me back more because of that.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe like, I think the other day, I think even Slocum himself, he gave the tip is like, maybe before you make the post, your post, spend like a half hour, let's say, scrolling, engaging with other posts, maybe liking and doing, comments and things on other people's, and then post your post that you want for that day. Because somehow they say like, oh, well, they're, the algorithm or whatever will see you actively engaging. So then it's kind of like sort of focused. And then all of a sudden, you make your post and it goes the way you want it to go, or it gets a bit more reach. So there's definitely some science behind that, or some truth to that. But yeah, a great way to coach your team and get them going. And I'm so happy to hear about the success that they've had. There was a girl you had talked to me about that was struggling back in the day. I don't know, this is going back a year probably now. Um, is she still with you, or has she turned the corner? Do you remember who I'm talking about? Or
I did. And what's so fun is that she is no longer with me, but I actually helped her find a job as an executive assistant for a CEO because she was really good at marketing, but sales wasn't her forte. So I told her, like, look, I think you're awesome, but I actually saw there's this huge opportunity for you with a raise that I think you would be good for. There's a CEO from a small startup that has 75 employees. He's looking for an executive assistant. You're young, and I think you can learn a lot from him. You've been working for 6 months, and as a BDR, you're not being successful. Maybe sales is not your thing, because she was always afraid to pick up the phone, like she was struggling. And guess what? She got hired. She's been there for 4 months. She's extremely happy. Her boss is extremely happy. So sometimes you need to have those difficult conversations as well when somebody's not a fit for the job. Like, I'm all about giving chances, but after a lot of coaching sessions, if they're still not succeeding, and there's a mindset part to it. Like, what I tell my team is that yes, sales is an activity based role, but you actually need to put effort in the activity. If you're just following metrics to like comply with what your manager says and just like sending out emails, it's not even going to work, because there's actually effort involved in the activity. So she was only doing that, and it wasn't working out for her, because sometimes sales is not for everybody. It happens. And we helped her get a job, and she's extremely happy. That's what happened with her. Yeah. I'm happy for her. Really happy.
I swear to God, I'm going to say this with unequivocally, Samara better be paying you a lot of money, because if anybody was listening to this, they're going to want to hire you. You are the epitome of leadership and BDR leadership. I don't, as I continue to build this company that I'm building right now to the point where I could hire somebody like you, I will be asking for a lot of money and coming at you strong. I'm telling you, man, you rock my world when it comes to these kinds of things. Like, there's not a lot of folks like you out there, honestly. Like, so many people do it wrong. So many people would have let that girl wallow away and
I think there's a
either.
human side. There's a human side to being a BDR. And what's really important for me is being human, because I've worked in sales for such a long time that I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly part of sales. And I've had like all kinds of bosses, like really awesome bosses. And then there's the horrible, toxic ones you see in movies. I've had those too. So when I was let go in the pandemic, and I remember I started as an SDR. I was an SDR for 1 year before I actually got promoted to an AE. I promised myself that if I ever was a leader again, or I would manage a team, I would change their lives, and I would do everything differently from what I used to do in my other jobs. Like, I would change my management style completely different, be that person that everybody wanted to work for, change people's lives. So I made that promise to myself.
When you say you changed, like, what did you feel like you were doing before that
So I
wasn't
think
gonna work?
that when you work in a toxic environment, it's like a cascade effect. Like, that toxicity, whatever, rubs onto you. So I worked for a very toxic boss in a very toxic environment. They didn't treat employees right. So it's like, if they yell at you, it's like a cascade effect. You yell at people, and I was like always bitter, in a bad mood, whatever. And they didn't give people chances. It's like in sales, some people are naturals at it, and some people have the potential to be built and become a natural and actually enjoy it, and some people just don't have it. So they would fire people extremely fast. Like if it's 1 month and you're not doing you're not like giving results, you're fired. That's not the way it works. There's a lot of coaching involved, a lot of one-to-ones involved. But if it's been 4 months, maybe, and you haven't booked anything or not been successful, there's time to have like that honest chat, like this isn't working out for you. So I decided I wanted to be a mentor instead of that person that's known for like not being patient and like firing people. I think that you have to be empathic with the fact that there's situations in life that people can't control, that you have to like, sometimes people are just going through a hard time and you have to be there for them and make them feel safe that they're not going to lose their job by going through a personal situation. Taking breaks during the day, I encourage breaks, I encourage work-life balance. That company that I used to work for, people never had breaks, and it was like a taboo. Like if you were not working on a weekend, I'm like, don't talk to me on the weekend unless it's an emergency. I always answer emails, just so that you know that. Like if my boss messages me, I'm that person, because I'm just like that. I live online. But I try to tell them like being an SDR is a really hard job, so you need to find a work-life balance that works for you. That's what I tell them all of the time.
That's awesome. It's so refreshing to hear that the level of dedication that you have to not just like your team, but making that environment better for everybody. It sounds like, right? Just kind of, I think your style of leadership, and I've seen this just standing on the sidelines, like on LinkedIn, right? People are picking up on what you're doing. And hopefully that's having an impact on other people's lives too, not just in your organization, but pretty far beyond that. I know we're kind of coming up on the top of the hour here. There's been so much that we've gotten into, and I've learned just in this conversation too, some great takeaways. I think Mark, we've got to do this again, because there's so much to unpack here.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even talk any kind of tactical BDR stuff. We've just been talking about life as a BDR, really, and how you're doing things down in where are you? Where do you live in?
I'm down in Honduras. Remember, I'm in Latin America, but I travel between. I live between Miami and Honduras, actually.
Oh, okay. So how come it says Boston?
In Miami.
How come it says Boston on your LinkedIn
because
page?
Your company's based out of Boston, and it's a LinkedIn hack for when you're based in Latin America to have actually your location in the States, because prospects are going to be turned off if they're like, okay, you're based in Honduras. They're like, what? So it's a LinkedIn hack, but I'm actually moving to Miami, like on a permanent basis in the next few months. Yeah.
Well, I think putting the United States thing would actually, for like just mapping and how people are like could come to you and find you, it's important. But I would like, if I saw you in Honduras, I'd be interested. It'd be interesting to me, right? Because if I went to your website, I'd see you're all about Latin America, but now you're in Boston. So then to me, it's like, oh, wait.
Our company and our founders are based out of Boston, and all of the companies that I've actually worked for in the States have all been based out of Boston. But I'm changing that to Miami, like on a permanent basis soon. So
Miami's a nice place. I'd like to be there as well. But Honduras is probably pretty warm too, right? Isn't that like
it is? But what's going on in the political scenario isn't that nice right now. So let's see what happens.
But you grew up there? Is that where you're from?
Yeah, I did. I grew up there. Yep.
Have you ever lived in the States though, or?
I have. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Miami.
Awesome.
Most of my family lives in Florida as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
My boyfriend lives in Florida as well. So.
Oh my goodness. So you're really traveling back and forth just to keep up work life.
Yes.
That's nice. But at least they give you the flexibility. That's nice.
Oh yeah, that's the awesome thing about working remotely, that as long as you have a computer, you can work from anywhere remotely.
All right. Well, yeah, no, we totally appreciate that. Well, thanks for coming on today. This was super awesome. We loved having you here.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, listen, you're a rock star and we love you, and We wish you the best, and we
Thank you
know
so
you're
much.
even better because you had more people following the show on your page than on either of our pages.
There you go.
But thanks again. Everybody have a great Thursday, and we'll see you
Bye.
next Thursday.
Bye
See ya.
bye. Thank you guys for having me. Bye.
Got it.